I'm Shruti Nagpal, CEO, Asian School of Cyber Laws, and I'm making this short video to try to speak to you about a very serious issue that youngsters today are facing online. Before I start, we all know that the internet is a wonderful place where youngsters can meet their friends, they can learn new things, they can get an education way beyond, above and beyond what they are learning in school. But the problem with the internet is the anonymity which is being provided by it. So the people these youngsters meet online may not be who they claim to be. Now, the issue that I would like to speak to you about is called cyber grooming. Let's try and understand what it means. Cyber grooming is when a perfect stranger tries to become friends with a youngster or a child with the hope of later gaining sexual favors from this child or youngster. You could say it's like role playing, where this stranger tries to pretend to be their friend, someone who sympathizes with them, someone who is willing to listen to their problems. And then they try to blackmail or to threaten the youngster into doing them sexual favors. This preparation that they make, this preparation of getting the child to trust them, to think of them as a friend, is what is known as cyber grooming. The main goal of cyber grooming is to try to obtain intimate or personal data from a youngster. Now, this could be sexual conversations, it could be videos, it could be pictures, and later then these are used to blackmail or threaten the child into giving up more such information, into forcing them to do sexual acts or favors for the predators. So what makes a child vulnerable to this kind of a threat? Well, one is the fact that every youngster in their life at some point or other starts to believe that they have a ton of problems and that these problems are not understood by the adults in their life and that they need someone their age to understand. This is the kind of vulnerability that these predators recognize and latch on to. The way that these perpetrators work is to take on fake identities. Now imagine if a young boy is approached by a good-looking young girl online, wouldn't he be interested? That's exactly how these predators work. They trap these youngsters or children into believing that they have made a genuine, authentic, new online friend. These online conversations usually start out pretty innocently, with the predator asking them very general questions about their hobbies and their school, their families, their homes, how things work. And slowly, as the trust gets built, these conversations then move on to sexual desires and experiences, what is liked or disliked. Those are the kind of questions then which get incorporated very innocuously, very innocently into these conversations. As adults or as responsible parents, how do you come to know if your child is stuck in a situation like this? Well, one of the signs that you can watch out for is if a child who is usually very fond of playing outside suddenly starts spending an incredible amount of time on the internet. Well, that's one alarm that should go off in your head. Another one can be when you walk into a room and you innocently ask your youngster, "Oh, whom were you speaking with?" And they try and evade these kind of questions. That's another one. A third could be you walk into a room and you suddenly see that whatever it is that your child was doing online, they've suddenly shut off all those tabs or they have shut down that website and they try and leave the room then. That's another sign that you can watch out for. Mostly youngsters or children tend to learn the language that is spoken at home. So if the language at home is, fairly clean, that's what they're going to most likely pick up. Although most of them do go through a stage where they try to pick up language which is considered cool from their peers and their friends. But if you notice that a child who otherwise speaks a clean language suddenly picks up sexual language or innuendos or is speaking a language which they would not otherwise know, Well, that is again something that you ought to watch out for. And lastly, please understand that when these sexual demands are made of them, these children are not going to be comfortable with them. There is an incredible amount of pressure on them, and that tends to make them overly emotional. So that's your last sign. If you feel that for no particular reason or for no known reason, your child is overly emotional, tends to break out, tends to react too quickly, too often, that is something that you should be aware of, and you could link it to someone pressurizing them online. You as parents or as responsible adults are going to have to be super extra awesomely alert, because it's very difficult for a child sometimes to open up. You are going to have to watch out for these signs. Also, there is another aspect to it. Once this trust develops with this predator, the predator is more often than not telling the child that if you reveal what we've been talking about, if you show your parents the kind of pictures and videos that you've been sending to me, well, they're most likely not going to love you anymore. They're most likely going to say, well, this is a lost cause. And that is how they gain their power over the youngster. More quick point, one that I've forgotten honestly, was that if you see that your child possesses electronic items which you have not purchased and is unable to tell you which friend he or she has gotten them from, that's another sign that you can watch out for, because chances are that a predator may be tempting them with a device which you have otherwise said no to. But now that predator says, oh, I'm your friend, I can always gift you something, and then they present this to them. Again, building that bridge of trust with a youngster. So what can you do to prevent this kind of thing? Well, a very simple suggestion is speak to your child. There comes an age when every child has questions about their own sexuality, about what goes on, different questions. Speak to them. Answer these questions. Yes, of course, you can have your own limits as to how much you want to take it to, depending upon the age of the child and the appropriateness of the conversation. But you need to speak to them. If you try to put it away, their questions on sexuality, as something dirty, and you try to discourage them from asking these questions, chances are they may try and go online. Please understand, for youngsters today, Google is the answer to everything. Most likely they will go online, meet the wrong kind of people, get the wrong kinds of answers, begin to trust people who should not be trusted, and may actually get stuck in a situation which they find themselves unable to come out of. It is better that they get that information from the most trusted source. That's their parents. 2. If you share your experiences, if you share your daily work life, you share your experiences about the kind of people you're meeting online, the kind of conversations you're having online, it is most likely that the child will feel that it is okay to have these kind of conversations and may come forward with their own issues too. Encourage your children to activate all the privacy and security features which are available on their devices. Lastly, being a parent, I know it is difficult, but try and limit their screen time. It's not just good because they're going to have some additional protection from people like these, but also it's going to work well for their mental health also. Now let's come to the legal part of it. Is cyber grooming covered under any law? Well, in some ways it is covered under the Information Technology Act, but also the Government of India came up with a specific act which is known as POCSO, or the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences. This was introduced in 2012, and yes, it does cover scenarios like cyber grooming also. The law apart, we must understand one thing. The law and the police are there to help us, but they can do nothing if we choose not to report such incidents. So the thing that we can do is to encourage youngsters to speak to those whom they trust. Sometimes that may not be the parents. Sometimes youngsters may feel that if I speak about something like this, parents may not understand. Well, fair enough. Speak to friends whom you trust. Speak to counselors whom you trust. speak to school teachers whom you trust. As long as a child is openly speaking about the issues that he or she is facing online, chances are they can stay secure. I hope you've got some good, solid information on cyber grooming with this video. If you've joined me only today and you've joined my channel only today, I request you to please go and subscribe to the channel. We try our level best to keep putting up interesting, informative videos on cyber related issues. I would also like it if you go and like my video, please. If there's any question that you have, if there's an incident that a child or a youngster in your life has faced and you'd like to share it, please do put it in my comments section. If you have a question, I will try and get back to you with the answer. Until then, thank you so much.